Well, hello there, Larry Nimmer here. I just came back from the Burning Man Festival. It was about my 20th visit. I went on my 12th visit or so with my wife, Tara Riley, for our honeymoon. She kind of liked it, but didn't really want to come back anymore. I enjoyed coming for just all the possibilities, all the art, all the inspiration. But anyway, I'm going to note here about 15 highlights from my trip, and I just have some footage playing in the background, that raw footage. Well, let's see. One of them is I stayed again with the LAF camp, short for Lazy Ass Fuckers. They host the Artifacts Museum. They also host the nipple stamping station. But one of my first favorite things was standing out in the front of our camp. People are walking by on the street. It's laid out in streets at Burning Man. This is me in my tent there. We were right across from the porta potties. There are porta potties every couple blocks. By the way, it's about 3 miles across the town of Burning Man, Black Rock City. Um, and it's based on the gift economy, the Burning Man Festival, a lot of art, a lot of giving, fun. But anyway, we were right across from the porta potties. They didn't stink most of the time, only when they were emptied by the truck. But it made people they didn't want to look at the porta potties when they passed on our street, so they looked towards us. And one of the days I had energy, and our DJ was playing some good music, and I was dancing in front of the club, had my hat on with my fedora on top of my straw hat. And people smiled when they saw me dancing, and a number of them came into our tent and danced with me and others. And it was just a great feeling. I think they were kind of amused by an old guy dancing to contemporary music, but just that I'm hoping they liked my groove. I was in the groove or whatever. Anyway, that was fun. Um, we had a nipple stamping station, which is kind of weird. I didn't really want to have anything to do with it, but one day while I was there this year, everybody who was manning the nipple stamping station left, and it was left to me. And people came in, like women would come in and say, well, is this where we get our nipple stamp? So I gave them the option of stamping themselves or having their friends stamp it. I didn't actually stamp any nipples. I did stamp a couple of women's asses and men's asses and some belly buttons. So that was another highlight. Let's see, what other highlights were there? I'm looking at my journal, which I took with me. Well, at the burn itself, Saturday night is the burn. By the way, this woman was fascinating. She was kind of a screamer. We named her the Siren. Apparently she had emotional or psychological issues. When she'd talk, I would often talk like this. And I found it fascinating. And she'd also go out in the middle of the street and bow to people and send out love. But then she also sent out some bad vibes to people in our camp. And I felt bad about that. But anyway, but at the burn, Saturday night, you randomly just go wherever everybody surrounds the man. There's a perimeter. I sat down, and then there wasn't much space left, and a couple of women, 25 to 30-year-old women, and an older man sat down next to me. I made a little room for them. I got to talk with them. They were twin sisters, and it was just so nice to see twin sisters of that age so enjoying each other. So that was a highlight for me at Burning Man. I went to the Playa Jazz Cafe a number of times. That was a highlight. I ran into Tyler Hammond there, the host of Jazz at the Grape in Ventura, and he played there, marvelous drummer, and played some good organ music as well. I also saw some jazz competitions at the jazz club, in particular this piano player. He did some funny competition last year. And then this year I saw he went up to the two saxophone players and kind of had them play off of each other. It just was very playful. It's one of the things I like about Burning Man, so playful. Oh, what else? Oh, well, one day I walked by Turds of Wisdom. There are a lot of theme camps at Burning Man. This one's called Turds of Wisdom, and I filmed it. And it's in my rough cut. I have an hour and a half long rough cut of my documentary, my 20 years at Burning Man. And I went and it's not that compelling, believe it or not, because it's an hour and a half of so I'm looking for a producer that can recut my documentary, add some excitement, maybe help create an arc to the story. Although one arc I have is started going as a 50-year-old mild-mannered man and and 20 years later, I'm a performance artist, I'm an important member of my community, and I bring the burn back home by having fun events and art and playfulness. But let's see if that's not quite enough arc to my documentary, though. So I'm looking for someone. I'll pay them $10,000 to recut my doc if I like their ideas. Anyway, I stopped at Turds of Wisdom, and they told me how they're a work camp. They all work at the gate, or maybe they're rangers too. There's quite a few staff at Burning Man to run the place. It's about 55,000, I think, people came this year. I think it's been up to 70 or 80,000. And it's a temporary city, by the way, for a period of a week. But Turds of Wisdom, they were a work camp. They said they proposed to the Burning Man organization, they had their theme camp, Turds of Wisdom, where they have funny sayings on up front, or you can come in and they can tell you some funny sayings. But Burning Man said, nah, it's not good enough. So they did it on their own. Most camps are just done on their own. I think our Artifacts Museum, our LAF camp, Lazy Ass Fuckers camp, we just do on our own. It's been happening for a number of years. This is my second year back with them. They're a nice group, fun group, easygoing people. Not too much drama. There was a little drama with the siren lady. Turds of Wisdom was fun. Well, one year I stayed with Art House. They're a group of ballet dancers, orchestra performers, and annually at the Burning Man Festival, they come together and do a performance on the playa. And I know they were going to do one Tuesday night, but it rained out. We had a lot of bad weather this year. There was 65-mile-per-hour winds the day before I arrived, and then they closed Burning Man because it knocked over quite a few structures. But then I got there, but then it was raining, and I'll tell you one of my stories. When I first arrived, I saw it takes me, well, I spend the night in Reno, but once you get to the gate of Burning Man, it took me this year 3 hours from the gate, which is a few miles to the entrance, because they have to stop you, search your car, make sure you got your ticket, and process you in other ways. So what was my point? Oh yeah, so I got there just as the storm was coming on, and my camp members helped me set up my tent. But then it started raining, and I was 5 minutes before I was actually had my tent all zipped up, and the main flap was open. That's my tent, by the way. And I think that was my tent. No, actually, that was a tent like my tent. But anyway, well, this is right in front of our camp. This is some of our campers dancing in front, or people dancing going by as I'm dancing. The rain came in. For 5 minutes, it created a pool of water at the front edge of my tent and mud. And then I had to stay in my tent for 15 hours because it was 5 or 6 at night when it started, and it got so muddy outside, you just couldn't walk anywhere. And so people just stayed in their tent. I stayed in my tent. I had my setup the way I love it, everything laid out, my to-go box, my clothes, my food, my extra things, my trash bag, my toilet articles, my fanny pack, my water, my pee jugs, and my sleeping bags and pads, pillow, rags. And I just laid there with the storm coming down on the roof of my tent, and it was just so pleasurable. And I had some cannabis gummies. They kicked in. What's that? Okay, well, this is somebody processing me at Burning Man. I'm going to go on to something else. And just kind of meditating in the rain, having made it, the wonderful sounds, the environment, the security, it was just very nice. Go on to the next thing. She had an interesting story, by the way. Let's see, am I playing it? I think I'm playing it. Okay, now I'm playing it. There's my coastal view photo. But anyway, being in my tent was quite the nice experience. Just as I arrived, Turds of Wisdom. Well, I was talking about shooting the Art House Ballet and Orchestra. It's supposed to be Tuesday night, but I knew it must be canceled. A lot of things are canceled if the weather isn't right. There's, by the way, a very large program. Do I have it here? I'll grab it. Oh, this is the program, and it lists like all the things happening during the week. Tons. I'll just take a couple at random. Pickleback Daily, booty-approved drink served with extra cheek. Secret drink puzzle. Okay, and another random thing. Museum opening hours, the Tibetan sacred sound meditation. Another random thing. Heebie-jeebie healings. I went there once. It was pretty good. Grounded healing oasis, healing body, mind, and spirit. And I'll look at one more. Sunsets, coldish, wine, finest bottom shelf wine. and then this is a map of Burning Man. It lists all the art installations, I believe. So here's the layout. It's 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 o'clock, so 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then the concentric circles are A Street, B Street, C Street. So I was at 630 and D Street this year. And these are all art installations out in the playa. Incredible pieces. And this backside lists camps and so forth. Where was I? Turds of Wisdom, Sisters. Okay, let's. Oh yeah. So anyway, their performance was canceled Tuesday night. I finally found their camp, went to it. I said, when is your performance going to be? And this was 2 days later, and I was told, well, it's going to be an hour and a half from now, out in the middle of the playa. So I went, and I got there in time. I had to get my camera gear. I didn't have a lot of energy. I'm biking around Burning Man. The biking was really difficult this year because of the rains. It made a lot of potholes in the ground. The art cars had a hard time driving on it too. But anyway, got there, great performance, and I felt really good about myself for being professional, getting there and shooting it with a 2-camera shoot. One day I went to center camp, and I was really hot. I found a really good shady spot because there was 2 shade structures, one under the other. It was really shady. There was some live music going on. You can only have original songs in center camp, no cover songs. Center camp is put on by the Burning Man organization. They used to serve coffee there, and it used to be the only thing for sale other than ice at Burning Man, but now they only sell ice. You have to bring all your own stuff, your water, food. They provide porta potties, but I had my own pee jug. But anyway, what was I saying? So I got a nice shade spot. And then this woman next to me had a cane and sat down. She looked a little older than me. I'm 74. Turns out she's 65. She said she's disabled. She'd been trying to come to Burning Man for 15 years getting a ticket. It's often hard to get tickets. And this is the first year she got a ticket. She was so pleased. Her name's KC. She says she goes on her own to a lot of festivals, but because she's disabled, she has to lay in bed for a day for each hour she's out and about, something like that. But then she encouraged me to sing something at open mic, and first I said no, but then I said okay. So I gave her my camera, and she filmed me singing a song at open mic, and that was kind of fun. She was quite the character, inspiring too. What else? Learning about industrial papermaking. Well, that woman from the Media Mecca who was processing me to have my media credentials, she is a PR person at an industrial papermaking company, and she told me about it. It was really fascinating hearing the process. The great thing about Burning Man is you can strike up a conversation with anybody. When you're walking down the street, if you want to go in a tent, you just say, hi, how's it going? And they say, welcome, welcome. What do you want to drink? Do you need something to eat? Here, have a seat. And that's kind of the ethos, the ethic, what goes on at Burning Man. Learning about paper making, giving out sausage sandwiches. Well, in all camps, you're supposed to contribute to the camp, like make a meal or help set up the shade structures or da da da. Well, my my head of my camp, Todd, said I can just do video and photography and that's enough, which I did some of that. But I also made sausage sandwiches, and I got about 8 packs of sausages, and I cooked them on my little camp stove, and I had hot dog buns and mustard, cut them all in half. And 2 days in a row, I served lunch, just going around serving that, and people really appreciated that. I talked about arriving in the rain. Hard on at Naked Wrestling. Well, at center camp, a lot goes on, and they were organizing one day when I was there, naked wrestling, and you could only film it if the 2 people participating asked someone to film it, and they were friends who were wrestling each other. Well, there were these 2 guys. They both got naked. They were had oil put all over them by a Burning Man staffer, and they said, "Go and wrestle." But as one of the guys was kind of shorter, tubbier, and had well, I didn't know if it was a hard-on or if his penis is somewhat erect at normal position. The other guy had just kind of a penis at rest position. But I thought, well, that guy must be embarrassed if that is a hard-on. And it wasn't that long, the hard-on, but it was like sticking straight out. It wasn't even like that. And I thought, good for him for not being embarrassed. Anyway, he wrestled with that thing. I was wondering if he was going to get hurt or anything. He didn't seem to. And then he just joked around afterwards and finally got dressed and went on his way. That was good for him. This is the temple where people leave messages to their loved ones, and they burn the temple. And last night is really quite a moving spot. And I could have said that's a highlight, although it wasn't on my list. But anyway, you have to have locks for your bikes because people just hop on it and take it off. And I had my bike stolen, as I recall, one year, and then I started bringing my bike lock. But I lost my bike key on the playa. The playa is the ground. It's like a dusty ground. And so I kind of retraced my steps and I found it. I had an orange string on it. And then a second time I lost my bike lock, retraced my steps and found it again. And then the other thing that happened is I had my cell phone with me, which I had notes on where to go and what to do, as well as my phone to take photos. And so, I shaved my balls for this. This is Camp Snark here. And these are people in camp, turds of wisdom, Camp Snark, I guess. Something like that. This is the head of it. I was at a camp. It was an interesting camp. I was feeling low energy when I first got there, possibly slightly faint. I don't know if it was the heat, the gummies, or what. I said, "Can I sit here?" And they said, "Sure." Well, it turns out it was a deaf camp, but the one guy was interpreting for the others, and they were very friendly. And I was able to say, I was able to go like this, and I had my pens right here. They were just sitting right here. So people get the idea. They can write on my outfit. That's part of my gifting or my radical self-expression or my community, which are part of the tenets of Burning Man that I do. And had a nice tete-a-tete with them. They had apples they were giving out from their orchard in the Grass Valley area, I think. And let's go on to. So I was talking about I was at Media Mecca and I went to get my phone and I realized I didn't have my phone and I felt terrible. I've been prepared to lose my phone forever. I've never lost it. I went back to my camp, rode my bike back. It wasn't there. I went to the last place I was in, the deaf camp, and as I walked in, someone came out. He held up my phone. He had found it, and those deaf people are capable. So that was a nice moment. This is a parade by the DPW of Burning Man, and they're yelling at the snarky camp folks, and they have some inside jokes going on. One day I was walking down the street, and there's this Persian rock music. I went in. There was some nice dancing going on, and an incredible food buffet, but no one was eating it. It was half eaten. I guess they had already eaten it. And I figured, I could just go up and cruise the buffet. Even that's the deal there, but I still was kind of nervous. So I took a really big piece of chicken and stuck it in my mouth and started chewing on it before anybody looked, and I started choking on it. And I got bad heartburn, but I got through it and then came back a little later and had some more chicken. It was so delicious, Persian food. One day I had a nice bike art tour. The Artery is in charge of all the art out on the playa. Burning Man gives millions of dollars to artists for their art installations, incredible stuff. And you can take tours. You get on your bike, and the bike tour guide is on their bike, and they bring you around. And I had a tour of one quadrant of the playa in a couple of hours. The jazz band I mentioned, I saw my friend Tyler Hammond and had a lot of fun at the jazz club. Craig, one of the guys in my camp, he told me about how he worked for a guy that has RVs, that he rents RVs to people coming to Burning Man. And that's kind of a big deal at Burning Man because there are more and more RVs, and there are what called plug and play RVs. And they're just set up and you just cruise on into Burning Man, go in your RV, and you have satellite TV and air conditioning and bathroom in there and all that stuff. It's not really the Burning Man experience. But Craig was telling me that year, a couple years ago, they brought 150 high-tech RVs to the playa, and people just came and used them. I like camping. I feel like you miss the experience if you're in an RV. About the end here, let's see. Well, the play party. I'll get to that in a moment. Oh, well, having people ride on my Art On outfit was a lot of fun. And then also giving out my wish tickets. This is something I've been doing most every year I go to Burning Man. It says one wish comes true when you burn it. And I have my email address on there too. It's kind of a joke when I give them my card. They burn it, but I tell them you only have to burn half of it to make it come true. Let's move on to a little something else in the background. Nearing the end, giving out my art card. Well, I had one crazy experience. I was a block from my camp. It was about 9 o'clock at night. There was this huge tent, and I looked in the opening. People were walking in. It was just so lush of pillows and wall hangings, and it was a huge tent. And so I asked someone taking off his shoes and going in, "Is this a dance club?" And he said, "Well, kind of." And I said, I didn't know what it was, but I know anything could happen at Burning Man. So I sit down, and then a sexy woman says, "Okay, all of you come and sit around me on the floor." And I sat next to her because I didn't have my hearing aids in that day to be able to hear her. And she says, "Well, the only real rule is no penile penetration of orifices like vaginas and assholes, although mouths are okay," she said. So I had no idea what this was. Well, she called it a play party event, and apparently around the world they are. And apparently that's the aim of the play party, is to get into those situations. I couldn't imagine I would. I never have at Burning Man. But as the story goes, she says, "Okay, everybody find a partner of the opposite sex." And I look around, and everybody had been partnered up, except there was a 40-year-old guy next to me. And he kind of went. So I said, "Okay." So we sat down next to each other, and we were told, hold hands and stare into each other's eyes for 5 minutes. Well, I had a hard time with that. I kind of have a hard time with eye contact, I guess. I don't know whether to look in the left eye, the right eye. Can I look away? And da-da-da. But I got through it. Then she said, "Okay, now find a new partner, and we'll have a new exercise." So I looked around. There was a 45 or so year old woman. And we kind of both nodded. So we sit down. And the leader says, "Now it's important to be able to ask what you want, but then it's even more important to say no when someone asks what they want." So our exercise was to ask each other, taking turns, something we want the other person to do, and you have to answer no as a way to. So I can't even remember what we asked, but I might have asked, "Can I hold your hand?" And she said no. And then she maybe asked, can I massage your neck? And I said, no. Well, we went back and forth like this. Well, at one point I looked down at my pocket. I had my pens here. And I said, "Can I draw on you?" And she said, "No." "Well, not now, maybe later." That was kind of funny. Anyway, we went on with that exercise. It's kind of fun, enlightening. And then the leader said, "Now you gather into groups of 4. So I looked around. There were 2 studly 40-year-old guys. We kind of all nodded. And then there was an overweight woman of about that same age in kind of an S&M leather outfit. So we're our foursome, and she says, okay, the deal is you take the first minute, one person at a time, say what you want the rest of the group to do to you, and in the first minute explain what you want done, and then for 4 minutes the rest of the group does it. So the first guy said to the other guy, okay, he said to the other guy, I want you to massage my back. And to the woman he said, I want you to massage my feet. And to me he said something like, I want you to massage my hands. So we did that. And then it was the woman's turn in the S&M outfit. And she lays down and she says, I want you all to whip me. And they had supplies these whips about this long with like a leather strap at the end. So I'm kind of doing that. We were instructed to ask harder, softer. So I said, harder, softer. She said, harder. So I hit her a little harder. Oh, that was kind of fun. I think she enjoyed it. And then it was the other Studley guy's turn. He said to the guy next to him, now I want you to massage the inside of my arms. And to her, he says, I want you to get my neck feeling really good. And to me, he said, I'd rather you not do anything. So I sat that one out. Afterwards, he kind of said to me, sorry about that. And then we were told our group of 4 now needs to hook up with another group of 4, and I made my getaway. Woo! I wasn't in any, I didn't really want to have any type of wild, unknown sexual experience. I didn't even know if it was really going to evolve to that, but it apparently does happen at Burning Man. Got out of there. That was just kind of a funny story. I didn't know what to expect, and that's what happened. And the last thing on my list is highlights of Burning Man is bringing the burn home to people like you and sharing what went on at Burning Man, what are some possibilities in life, whether you might want to go or not. And, this is the performance, the ballet and the classical orchestra. I'll just go through it a little quickly. There's the audience. Here's the orchestra getting ready. Dario there, I stayed with them 1 year. Anyway, those are some of my highlights of the 2025 Burning Man Festival. See you next year if you're at the Burn.